Hey, everybody, welcome to Anatomical Gangster. I am your host, Sue Hitzman, and today I'm talking to my dear friend and colleague, Perry Nickelston. He is the founder of Stop Chasing Pain, and he is known for his education in lymph and the lymphatic system and its link to pain, to autoimmune issues, and just to our overall sense of resilience and well-being. He has really pioneered this type of work over the past decade. I've watched him send so many great messages out on social media, on YouTube, and here on this podcast. So if you're new to Anatomical Gangster, please subscribe below. Share this one with your friends, especially anybody dealing with any type of body pain issues. And I hope that you enjoy this conversation with the amazing Perry Nickelston. So Perry Nickelston, thank you so much for coming on Anatomical Gangster and talking to me today. It's so good to see you.
Well, thanks for having me. And then I love the podcast name. It's So You.
I know it is. I know. Everybody says that they're like, I want to come on Anatomical Gangster. I'm like, I know. But
Yeah, it just sounds like a good time. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and if anybody can break really complicated topic down in a simple way, which is what I think anatome is to break up complicated things so that we can understand it. And gangster, to me, are just people who are going against the grain of the traditional schools of thought and trying to
Mm.
kind of change the way that we think about the human body, right? And I know, you've been a chiropractic physician for years, and I've been following you for a long time. And I know that, the biggest thing you talk about is the lymphatic system and the vascular system, and those being
Yeah.
key areas to address chronic pain and inflammation. So let's start there. What really inspired you from your beginnings in therapy
Mm.
to suddenly opening up your eyes and saying, wow, the lymphatic system is kind of a missing piece to this?
Yeah, great question. Well, I love it so much. I just decided to start calling myself the lymph doc because so much of my work now is involved with that. And I would love to tell you that I just had some great epiphany that was bestowed upon me. And it was like, it's the lymph, baby. It's the lymph. No, I didn't willingly go down the pathway of discovering is not the right word, but finding the lymphatics without a whole lot of suffering prior to that. Like
Yeah.
I was going along my merry way and being chiropractic, but I was also at that time doing a lot of movement-based therapies and soft tissue where I was focusing a lot on the musculoskeletal system and the nervous system. Yeah, that's pretty powerful stuff, right?
Yeah. It's what we all
But
know
I,
about, right?
yeah, I was going along pretty good, but then all of a sudden my body just went bananas and I started to get inflammation like everywhere. Like you name a body part, I felt inflamed. Just getting sick a lot. I had to go through a lot of different types of medications to try to tame it, a couple of surgeries at the time. And each one of those, even though they were trying to help me through that approach, unfortunately just pulled me deeper into the quicksand, which many people listening may be like, that's me, right?
Yeah.
And I was like trying everything, but I was getting sicker and worse. It got so bad that I had to stop practicing. I couldn't clinically think anymore. Like I lost brain function,
Mm.
severe brain fog, and I just couldn't remember what I just did. I was honestly felt like an early Alzheimer's onset type thing. That was scary.
Yeah.
And then I had pain everywhere and infections everywhere. So I had to stop teaching as well, stop practicing. I
What
was
year was this?
literally,
What year is
this
this, Perry?
was this was going on probably 12 years ago at this
Okay.
point, you know. And then when I look back on it in hindsight, my body was subtly dropping hints on me, but of course I wasn't listening. And then it just said, "Okay, well, I'm gonna hurt you, and it's coming." And boy, did
Mhm.
it ever, right? And I got to a point where I was just sleeping 15 hours a day and just existing, if you want to call it that.
Mm.
And I share this story a lot of you have to hit a certain form of rock bottom before you make a decision often that I got to change something and I don't care how crazy it sounds, but I got to go this way even though everybody tells me don't go that way, go this way.
Mhm.
I was coming home from teaching a workshop and I was really sick that day. I could barely make it through the workshop. And I just lost it on the drive home. And I started thinking over and over and over of just turning my wheel a little bit to hit a pole or something. And then it would be over and my sickness of making it difficult for other people would be over.
Mm.
And I said, okay, I got to call. So I called the suicide hotline at that point on the way home.
Wow.
And they talked to me for like 15 minutes and I felt a lot better, hung up. But they have to notify authorities if they believe that you're a danger to yourself. And they did. So I pulled into my driveway, and 10 minutes later, two police cars pulled into my driveway and knocked on my front door.
Uh-huh.
And then that's when the whole family found out of just how bad it was.
Bad
And
it was.
that's the moment where I'm like, okay, I know I'm not going that route. I got to get out of this. So I just said, I'm gonna go back to basics. I got to rescue myself because nobody else is.
Yeah.
And I just started saying, what am I missing? I'm looking at this through a lens like a chiropractor. I'm looking at it like the nervous system. I'm looking at musculoskeletal stuff. And those are great things, but they're not working for me, for what
Yeah.
I need right now. And everybody else that I was seeing was also not seeing it because what they were doing wasn't working either. And then I just started looking up everything you could think about inflammation, 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 inflammation. And that's when I came across that inflammation is an immune system response,
Mhm.
not a musculoskeletal one.
That's right.
Holy cow. Like I knew that, but I forgot that. And so I started looking about the immune system, everything you could think about the immune system. And that's when I came across the lymphatics because the lymphatics are not just
Right.
for a body part that's swollen for lymphedema.
Hell
It's
yes.
the number one part of your immune system that's trying to keep you from not being dead. Like
That's right.
that's it.
That's it.
And I'm going, maybe that's it. From what it sounds like here, that could be the missing piece.
Yeah, I got
And
an
so
autoimmune issue.
yeah, well, I got inflammation everywhere and
Yeah.
nothing's helping. Let me try to go after the most important part of that. Here's the thing that I was not currently looking at because there was a missing piece.
Yeah.
So what I love about this journey is it taught me to think differently, right? To find an answer. So I just did some easy interventions. I just started light at the time and it was just venturing into this. And this is before, anybody was talking about lymph at all. Like it's virtually non-existent at that time.
Sure.
And I did a little bit of work and boy, did I feel like I felt awful after that. But that's normal because it just started releasing stuff that's been stuck for a long period of time. And then it's just trying to get out. But here's the thing. Like 3 days of that, like 3 days later, I'm like, wait a minute.
Mm.
Like I'm something different. Like I'm not sleeping as much. I'm a little sharper. Things hurt a little bit less. And I felt like 25% better within a couple of days. And I haven't moved that needle like that in years. So I just made a commitment to stick with it for a month. After a month of that, I was like 70% different
Mm.
in
Well,
my symptoms, but also my physical appearance. Like I lost a ton of swelling and inflammation and body fat because at the time I was very swollen from the inflammation and the protective response of the body to swell the container that's inflamed.
hmm.
I shed 30 pounds like that. Boom.
Wow.
And then, but what was the gift for me was the mental clarity. Right.
Yeah.
And then that's when I said, okay, I'm onto something. And then I went down a rabbit hole like you would not believe of studying the lymphatics from all different disciplines, from all different countries, Ayurvedic medicine, who come to learn, that's the first thing they talk about. And Ayurvedic medicine is fluid, water, lymph.
That's right.
Then
Jin, Jin Yi, the fluid essence of the body. Let's all pay attention to things that they've known for thousands of
yeah,
years
I think
for
they might
one
be
minute.
onto something,
I'm with you.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And in Eastern medicine, but I have to tell you, what really sealed it for me and sent it home was the classical osteopathic work of Andrew Taylor Still.
Hmm.
He was the pioneer of looking at lymphatics and blood flow as the key to disease, dis-ease, and what's going on in the body. And of course, at the time, he just got royally discounted like anybody else who tries to change the norm. And then I went down there and I was like, this is right. He's right. He's right. He's right. He's right. And then I found all this resource material and all these different techniques. And I decided to blend those techniques with other things I've learned in other disciplines. But here's where my journey up to that point, I knew a lot of neurology. I knew a lot about the fascial system and the musculoskeletal system. So then I could mix all those together
Hmm.
and then come to realize that it's all connected and it's all together. So here's the thing that's quite fascinating. You know, when I'm doing all this movement and I'm doing all these fascial work and these massages and things like that, I'm moving lymph.
Yes.
Like you're always moving lymph.
Undeniably, if you're breathing, you're moving lymph.
Yeah. And
Yeah, you
I'm
cannot.
walking, I'm moving lymph, and then I'm thinking to myself, well, if I'm moving lymph when I'm doing that, why am I still feeling awful? And why is it not moving?
Yeah, riddle me that.
Yeah, and then the riddle was, well, there's a strategy to moving that stuff.
Hmm.
You can't just jump up and down and shake the whole container because everything's just going to go all over the place and bounce against each other.
Yeah.
You have to learn how fluids move in the body based on physiology, like your anatomy. When you understand how things work, you understand the physics of how fluids move in the body, in biology, and in nature. Your answer is right there.
Hmm.
So I just said, okay, I have to rub in these places. I have to rub in this order. And then when I did that, the floodgates opened, like literally opened. And I'm like, okay, this is really important for people to understand. First of all, when I started to do this stuff, I realized how many people have no idea whatsoever about the lymphatic system in what you might want to call the real world that people live in, but they got zero clue in medicine too, man. Like
Yeah,
none.
but why do you think why do you believe that the lymphatic system is so overlooked in traditional approaches in health and wellness? I mean, because I want to, but before you even answer that, I want to say two things. One, I find that the real pioneers in any industry always come to the place where we get messed up and we're like, what in the hell is going on? Because I think I'm fit, but now all of a sudden I'm in pain. Because the same thing happened to me, right? I woke up one day, the bottom of my foot hurt me, and I'm like, I stepped on a piece of glass. That's got to be it, right? And what started out as foot pain turned into this body-wide ache and fatigue that I couldn't shake. And it went from a diagnosis of plantar fasciitis with one doctor. And then as I'm going to specialists like crazy trying to figure out the
Mm,
solution, one guy told me I might have lupus. And I'm like, I have an autoimmune issue, right? Like all of a sudden, I'm like, what the hell? But in the end, it was really a discovery. Like sometimes your pain is the great motivator to wake up and to really find a true path of healing for yourself and then bringing it to other people, right? So again, my whole opening was like, inflamed fascia, plantar fasciitis. What the hell is inflamed fascia? Like there's no exercise for that. I don't know how to do that, right? So that was like a,
yeah.
yeah, I know all this anatomy and physiology. Like fascia wasn't really talked about, and lymph, not really. But as you start to
Yeah.
uncover fascia, you now expose lymph, and you realize, yeah, like most people who are walking around probably have some sort of an autoimmune issue because our environmental, agricultural health is shitty. It's declining.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that I've like gone off that. So again, why do you believe that the lymph system is so overlooked? Why?
That's a great question, and I honestly ask myself that same question every single day. But then at first I started to get a little bit upset and like, why don't they know about it? But then I thought to myself, well, you didn't know about it either. Like I was in healthcare and it wasn't on my radar because I
Mhm.
didn't think it was relevant, honestly. Because what does lymphatics have to do with pain? What does lymphatics have to do with inflammation? I don't have cancer. I don't need to worry about lymphatics. I'll backtrack later that I did have cancer 25 years prior. So I know that that was a piece of the puzzle all the way back then. We'll get
Can,
back
well,
to that.
wait, Perry, can you even will you define, just because I'm sure people are listening now for 10 minutes going, I'm not sure what the lymph system is. Can you
Yeah.
define the lymphatic system for everybody? Will you do that for us?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Well, we kind of alluded to it that
Yeah.
it's the number one most important part of your immune system because its job is pretty important to make sure that you can survive and thrive and you don't die and you don't have a lot of pain or inflammation. So its job, first of all, is to trap things and kill things that are trying to kill you. Like they make their way in. So like bacteria, viruses, parasites, toxins, you name it, because stuff gets inside of you all the time.
Mhm.
And then these lymph nodes, most people have probably heard of a lymph node.
Right. We've got
Yeah,
them all
you
over
got
the place.
about 600 or 700 of those things, and they're basically like mini toilets, MINI, and you have many MANY of them. And so they trap stuff, and when they get in the lymph node, that's the kind of, I call it the barcode scanner that signals your immune system what it is. So it knows what to send out to take it out. And those, all those things that you hear about, like the macrophages and when cytokines come out, they got to get those. So the little Pac-Man, they come on
Mhm.
and they get that. And then they just engulf it and they destroy it. And then it goes from node to node to node. So each time it goes to a node, it gets killed a little bit more. And then hopefully it's done. But then it also is a waste management system. So it gets rid of metabolic waste, cellular waste, thing that's floating around in the fluids that all of your cells live in. Has got to get out somehow. And the lymphatics is it. So it's a waste clearance system,
Mhm.
and it's a clearance system for stuff that's trying to take you out. And then if you think about it logically, well, it probably wouldn't feel too good if something went wrong with that system, because that means that stuff is going to stay stuck inside of you that's not supposed to be stuck inside of you. And when that
Mhm.
happens, your immune system kicks in because that stuff's not supposed to be there, but it
Yeah,
can't get out.
exactly.
It's like,
Right.
hey, I recognize it, but I can't get out, man, because you're stuck. It's
It's
just
kind of
too,
like a clogged drain. It really is like a clogged
it's
drain.
exactly like a clogged
Yeah,
drain.
I remember
Like,
Dr. Peter Friedel at the Berlin Fascia Research Congress. He discussed how the interstitial fluids of fascia are actually being driven, pulled into the lymphatic system through these pre-lymphatic channels. So I think of the pre-lymphatic channels like a drain. And if the drain gets clogged, then the lymphatic system gets bogged down, gets blocked up, and now this is what glands start to swell. Now your body odor stinks. You got toxins like living in your body because you can't pull it out of the system. There's no waste elimination. You're constipated, you're grumpy, you got bad breath, bad BO. This is probably a lymphatic problem. And those are the easy symptoms to fix. It's the ones where you suddenly can't eat any food, you can't fall asleep, stay asleep, and all these other problems. The lymph system is definitely under siege, right?
oh, absolutely. That's why fascial work is so great because you can influence that pre-lymphatic channels, as you know, the interstitium, right? The stuff, and then it's going to take it from that area around the cells, and then it's going to send it to another part of the system around that node, and then it sends it to node, and it keeps making its way through subsequent pipes. So
Yeah.
all these pipes are connected, but there's smaller pipes on the end that gather stuff, and there's big pipes on the end that are the dump site. So what I tell people is it's kind of like a toilet system in your house. You'll flush the toilet down, and that's the waste around the cell that's going to go into that lymph node. But it's got to go through the piping in your house. But ultimately, it has to either reach your septic tank or the street, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then the problem happens is that when many people do this work and they start rubbing stuff, they're rubbing the toilet part But meanwhile, where they're blocked is at the street or the septic. It's too deep.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
what you end up doing is you keep flushing a toilet into a system that's going to push it right back where you got it. And then you're just going to get worse. So that's how you have to understand. You call in a plumber that understands how fluids move in your house to fix it. And then once you unclog it, guess what? It all works because it's designed to work that way. That's why when you do lymphatic type work or fluid dynamic based work, you're always going to be working on the fascia, but you have to be strategic on where you choose to start and end because that makes a difference on where the fluids are going to migrate to next, right?
That
And
makes
so,
a lot of sense. Yeah.
but I had all these medical doctors that I was seeing when I was sick. Not a single one of them threw lymph across my radar.
Yeah, and if
And,
you had mentioned it, they'd tell you you're batshit crazy too. I mean,
and I
like they
probably
don't
would have
know.
said
They
the
don't
same
know.
thing. Yeah,
They don't
probably.
know. They don't
Like
know.
you don't have lymphedema. What are you talking about? Like
Yeah.
it just wasn't there. But I can't blame them because I didn't either. And then you just don't know what you don't know. But you know when you see something and you can't unsee it, that's a defining moment in your life. And
I do.
I knew at that moment that this was my destiny. This was my calling. And I got to a point where instead of resenting those years when I was sick and I was really down, that I became thankful and grateful because if I didn't get to that point, I never would have bothered to go down this pathway to discover this work, not just for myself, but for all the other people that just don't know what they don't know. And
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I mean, you've helped so many people. I think, and every time I see you on social media and how you break down just such a complicated topic in a simple way, again, you're like such an anatomical gangster. I really appreciate this. And something I've heard you talk about is the big six in lymphatic drainage, and you
yeah,
have this lymphatic drainage routine. So talk a little bit about what that is and the role of improving our overall health by learning about the big six.
yeah, I love it. Yeah, the big thing with after studying the anatomy and physiology of where these lymph node toilets are located. They gather in clusters, like in communities. And I figured if they're going to gather in clusters, there's got to be an important spot if there's a lot of them there, right?
Hmm.
And I noticed that they're strategically located around the primary joints of the body.
Hmm.
And I thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to think like a research paper here. I'm going to think like the body thinks. Why in the world would the body put all those nodes there? Because it's got to move a lot.
Yeah.
You should move your shoulders a ton and
Yeah.
your hips and your knees and especially your torso, but also your head because movement moves everything. It
Hmm.
definitely moves fluid, right? So they're located here, but people don't move. They're very sedentary. And when you sit, you close down and flex down on every lymph node cluster you got.
That's
It's
right.
just, I'm just going to choke off your toilets all day long.
Hmm.
And then the other place that lymph resides, the biggest place that it resides is in your gut, in your abdomen, but particularly your gut. And then I said to myself, okay, why is it going to go in the gut? This became fun for me. Why is it going to go in the gut? Well, because your gut is the biggest part of your immune system as well, because that has to take in everything you stick into your mouth from the outside world into it.
Yes.
And when you look at anatomy, you see that the gut is the largest part of your body exposed to the outside world by far. It's not your skin, it's not even close. And how many people have a gut problem? Yes, is the answer. So everybody's got a gut problem, right?
Like everybody. And again, yes, because I think our food sources are so, I mean, like there's just such a small amount of people who are doing sustainable farming and really looking at how they're dealing with the animals and the way the slaughterhouses work and
Mm,
the food and the soil. When people say, well, back 100 years ago, my grandparents never had lymphatic problems. I'm like, well, they didn't have skyscrapers either. And they didn't have all of the pollution and
right.
the terrible water sources and the bad pipes bringing bad water into our household. So, Yeah, I probably think, yeah, I can see why people had less problems there, but they were also not living as long as they do now because we didn't have penicillin and all sorts of stuff. So stop mixing apples with oranges and stop talking about the past. It's what's happening right now. And I think you're right. This world we are living in, I don't know anybody who probably doesn't have some sort of a gut issue, whether they know it or not. There's so many people who
Yeah.
have constipation and they're like, that's normal to not poop for a few days. And I'm like, really? Are you sure? I mean, I
Right.
think, wow. But I think you're right. So keep going. So big
So,
sick.
if stuff breaks through that gut wall, that, quote unquote leaky gut
Yeah.
type syndrome, right? Malabsorption syndrome, whatever word you want to give it, the gates are just open. Well, what's your body going to do when stuff breaks through that? Well, something's got to trap it and kill it. Well, that's your lymph.
Yeah, it's
Right?
got to
So
fight.
yeah, your lymph is going to kick into gear and say, "Don't worry, man, I'll do it." But what happens is the lymph it can only do so much. All right. And the lymph gets overloaded. And then that piping system in your gut has to go to the other pipes that are backed up as well. So you're just a big ball of fluid that's backflowing. It's not that it just gets stagnant, it actually flows the wrong way,
Mm,
which is a huge deal, right? Especially
yeah.
for when it backflows up and you get neuroinflammation in the brain and the lymphatics around the brain. We'll talk about that later if we have time. But yeah, and then that's why when I thought about, they say breathing, particularly diaphragmatic breathing, really moves the lymphatics a lot.
Mhm.
And the
Yeah.
reason it does that is because breathing changes pressure. You increase pressure, you decrease pressure. You increase pressure, you decrease pressure. I said, that sounds a lot like a pump.
Mm,
Or if I'm trying to unclog my toilet, it's just like a plunger. It's a suction effect. So breathing actually sucks lymphatic fluid up towards the drain at the collarbone. So your drain for your street and your septic is your collarbone, both of them, right? So I noticed that people don't diaphragm breathe either. So they have stagnated lymph, so they don't move and they
yeah.
don't breathe. And then they're continuously putting all this stuff in, and you just get overloaded. And everything in nature has a tolerance and a capacity before it breaks. But see, the deceiving part about lymphatics and blood flow issues, they have what's called a long latency period before you realize there's a problem.
Yeah, it's like it really is. It's like I always say it's kind of like a leak in a drain under your sink, and you notice the little leak. So instead of fixing it, you just put a bucket there and
Mm,
figure you'll fix it later. And that's just a tiny drip. It's just happening every once in a while. But then you go back and it's like, oh, it's going a little faster now. I see more dripping. And then all of a sudden you're sitting around, you're hearing doop, doop, doop. You're like, and now you're hearing it and you're still ignoring it. And then you go in and wow, that bucket is full of water. And so you think, oh, like I'm going to go ahead and be vegan for a week, or I'm like going to drink a lot of water, or whatever. I'm going to do this one thing that I'm going to put the bucket back. And after a while, that thing just explodes. And that's the problem that
yeah.
people don't get is that slow, it's like a slow leak in a tire. It's just going, going, going. But by the time you actually pay attention to it, you got a flat tire and your car can't work. You can't get to work. I think that's what's happening to most people today is that they wait too long, but they're getting symptoms. I call them pre-pain signals, right? Your body's
Yeah.
screaming out for you and you're ignoring it. We ignore it. We think, oh, it's just today or I must have not slept right or whatever, but
Mhm.
you're not realizing it's like a ticking time bomb in the body. And it's just a matter of time where the cup runneth over and now you're not able to do anything anymore.
Yeah, runneth over is a great analogy because that's pretty much it. Like your fluids are going to run over, right? And
Yeah.
then, well, if I think about that, you see, modern medicine is pretty damn good at saving acute life-threatening injuries, right? Like if somebody stabs you, you're not going to get lymph work, right? You're going to go to the hospital and you're going to get repaired, but you better do lymph work after that. Is what I'm going to tell you. So they're very good at that stuff because A equals B, hole here, knife here, good to go. But what's taking out modern humans today? Chronic disease,
Yeah.
chronic pain. That means long term. So when you have, well, I tell people when you have chronic pain, it doesn't just start that moment where you feel your pain. Something's been brewing up for a long period of time, years, months, decades, to set the stage for why you got that pain, which will make a difference on how well you recover from it when you realize you have pain. That's the person who says this. Yesterday I didn't have pain and today I do, and I didn't do anything different.
Yeah, I call that sudden chronic pain. It comes on like I just got into a car accident, but like all you did was bend over to pick up a pencil, right? Or
Right.
whatever. Like I went to sleep perfectly healthy and I woke up and I can't turn my head to the right. And I'm like, well, that's not a chronic issue. Or I mean that's not acute trauma. But that's the problem is I think a lot of people treat it like it's an acute event. And it's like when people say I slept wrong, and I'm like, how do you sleep wrong? It
Yeah,
doesn't even
right.
make any sense. Like there's no such thing as sleeping wrong. It's your body has been again a ticking time bomb, and like it just finally lets loose. But that is, I call that sudden chronic pain. It comes on like an acute traumatic event, uh, but there's nothing acute about anything. It's actually a long-standing problem. It's repetition. It's a lifetime, and now you're down the road of having chronic pain. And the bad news about both is that medicine treats sudden chronic pain like an acute disease or an acute trauma. So it's either pills or it's surgery or both. They're really
Yeah.
symptom driven, but not really looking at causal. And I think that that is a missing piece is the lymphatic system. It's just such a missing piece to it all.
Oh, absolutely. And it makes sense to me at night because what happens is that you have the longest period of typically inactivity at night where you don't move. So you're stagnant on top of stagnant.
Mhm.
And then you put that on top of people that most likely have some type of dysfunctional, or I don't like that word dysfunctional, maybe dysregulated breathing patterns at night where they have their mouth gaping wide open.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then
snoring away.
yeah, I mean, this is when your brain's supposed to pump out the waste from itself to go out into the lymphatic system, and you got a toilet that won't let stuff come out of your head.
Mhm.
And then every day that's going to build up and build up and build up, and then next thing you know, you're going to be an inflamed hot mess.
That's
And
it.
there's no pill you can take that's going to clean your lymphatics. I'm going to tell you that right now. The only way you're going to, I tell people, if you got a stuck toilet, you got to get your hands dirty, man. You got to get your hands in there and you got to clear the blocks. That's what the big six is. The big six is the hands on effort to unclog your pipes. And this is when people say, is vibration good for lymph? Yes, it is. But depending on when you do it, because if I just jump on a plate, I'm shaking the whole, so it's like taking a slosh pipe and just moving it around, which
Hmm.
is good. But what if there's blocks that are inside there? Shaking doesn't often clear that up.
If
So what
anything,
you
it
have to do,
disperses the problem a bit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it's like sticking my hand in a clogged sink and just stirring it up.
Yeah.
So what you do is you do the big six first. You unblock the big primary lymph node blocks, which frees up fluid flow, and then you jump up and down. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to have a different experience, and I know you are because it's just based on physics.
Hmm.
So the big six is very simple. I'll explain it to you. It's only six places, so everybody can do it, and it takes not even a minute. And it's based on hydrodynamic pressure. Fluid in the body, okay, for this type of fluid that I'm talking about here with lymphatics, will go from high pressure, it's going to try to flow naturally towards low pressure. That just makes sense because it's
Yeah,
energy
easy.
efficient. Like I'm going over here because there's nothing over there.
Hmm.
So high pressure to low pressure. So you need to know where the low pressure is and where the high pressure is. The lowest pressure for lymphatics and vein flow is the collarbone. So the collarbone is where everything's trying to go. So if you know the collarbone is lowest, then the highest would be the furthest distance away from the collarbone, right?
Hmm.
So what's the furthest distance away if you go down? Your feet. That's why the feet swell, because that's really high pressure there. And the feet are looking up, going, holy
Hmm.
cow, man, that's a long way to go, like up
Hmm.
there. And then what about if you go into your arms? There's the fingertips.
Mhm.
What if you go straight to the sky? It's your
Mhm.
brain.
Mhm.
So if stuff is trying to get to the collarbone, but your drain is blocked, where does the fluid go? Back out.
Yeah.
It stays there because it can't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
And you don't want that staying in your brain. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Well, can I ask, like, because the lymphatic system, like I always think of the cisterna chyli and the thoracic duct, right? Things are getting drained ultimately out of the thoracic duct. Am I right to say that?
Yes. So things will go, well, the lower part of the body here in this abdomen here and the organs, right? And
Yeah.
some of it can tether from the top. It's going to try to drive deeper to the deeper pipes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
And so like let's say the skin, that's like beneath the skin, that's like the superficial pipes. Then
Hmm.
when you get to the joints, that's the kind of intermediate pipes.
Hmm.
Then you got the deep, what they call central lymphatics.
Hmm.
That's going to be running along your spine, the thoracic duct,
Hmm.
and that's cisterna chyli, the largest lymph node that sits mostly top dead center in your abdomen, halfway between the navel and the bottom of the sternum.
Hmm.
That's it. That's the largest lymph node in the body.
Yeah.
Okay. That's spot number 4 of the big 6.
Gotcha.
Okay. So
Gotcha.
if we look at pressure, if you clear number 1 and you start at number 1 and I open that up, everything else automatically starts coming towards it
Hmm.
because it just opened it up.
Hmm.
Then spot number 2 is right at the top of the neck behind the angle of the jaw. It's cervical 1, cervical 2 with the largest lymph node cluster right by the vagus nerve.
Hmm.
So when I clear 1, two's already saying, man, I'm heading there already. But then you're going to, like, I got you, man. I'm going to rub you too. So you go into number 2 and then now 2 flushes down.
Hmm.
3 is at the pectoral slash axillary, this region, and that's trying to go towards the
Hmm.
collarbone. And then you've got the spot number 4 of that cisterna chyli here.
Hmm.
And then that has to go up, but it can only get up if you're cleared at 1.
Hmm.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
And then 5 is the crease of the groin by the inguinal nodes by the hip joint and the pelvic organs. Spot number 6 is popliteal behind the knee joint.
Gotcha.
So that's why you have to start at 1 and work your way down. You don't start at feet and hands and work your way up.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, and I think when I learned lymphatic techniques with Bruno Chickley, that we would always work on the face, starting at the collarbones, going up into the jaw, all the way up through the head, and rinsing through the head, and then we would go down into the armpits and down into the arm. Then you would start to work in the thoracic duct, right? You kind of open this whole area up,
Yeah.
then you go to your lymph nodes, right? And then you're slowly working down the leg in small flows to then get into the sweeping strokes to come back up. And I have to tell you, if ever I'm sick, even with my mom being in the hospital, she's lying in a bed right now, right? They're not really moving her very well. When we're done with this conversation, I'm going to head on up there. And the very first thing
Yeah.
we do is lymph drainage. I mean, it just makes so much sense, like to do
Yeah.
lymph work. I think, yeah, I mean, even for us, like, I mean, with Mel, we work on hands and feet, but I always like doing a rebalance sequence prior to it because you stimulate your diaphragmatic motion, right? But I
Yeah.
think this is like you're hitting something huge here, Perry. Yeah.
Yeah. So once you understand how pressure works in the body and how fluids
Makes
move,
sense.
it you know you have to logically start in one place before you move to the other when you're really trying to significantly influence fluid flow. Okay, because veins work the same way, and
Yeah.
the what I didn't say before is that the lymphatics are part of your immune system, but many people forget this. They are part of your vascular system
Yes, indeed.
because these fluids, they have all these different names, but I don't care what you call them. They all flow into each other. They just change names when they reach a different anatomical spot. So the blood is going to filter out from the capillaries, and that's going to send all that stuff into your interstitium. And then that's going to flow from there pre-lymphatic into the lymphatics. But once it reaches the lymph, now it's called lymph. But same fluid. Then it goes from the lymph, it's going to work its way up. And then when it reaches its terminal point here and it's cleaned up as much as it can, then it's mostly what they call plasma at that standpoint. And it's going to dump into the veins. But now it's called vein. And then it's going to go out again through the circulation into the arterial system. So this loop happens. But
Right.
now they know that the cerebrospinal fluid, the fluid that is around your brain and your spinal cord, dumps into lymphatics
Mhm.
at the same. So
That's
you need to have healthy lymphatics to have healthy fluid that coats the nerves that can be set on fire to cause you pain,
I get it. And
right?
so, and I want you to make sure that everybody's hearing this. Guys, you do not need a body worker and seeing somebody daily to help you move this lymph. You use your own hands on your body and you can do it to yourself. And
Yeah.
what Perry's talking about and what his work is about is really emphasizing a self-care practice, right?
Yeah.
Self-care. So, Perry, what are some simple steps, like real actionable steps that people can take to support their lymph and their health daily? Like, if you're going to really empower me, you're going to say, Sue, look, I want you to do this one thing every day, or at least start here, this one
Yeah.
thing. What is it?
Well, you're already going to change your life now that you became aware of lymphatics.
Right. The big
Just,
six. Yeah.
just a simple awareness of lymph will change your life because now you're, holy cow, I never heard of that before. So
Yeah.
now you're on the road. Then next thing you do is just go over those 6 places. You can see Big Six anywhere on the internet. It's like all over on YouTube and my website and TikTok, and it's gone viral because it works. And you just do it, and you're going, holy cow, he wasn't kidding. This is like really powerful. What's deceptive is how simple it is.
Hmm.
Because I tell you to rub and tap because those are my favorite ones and they're easy to do. You just don't cause, because this is when people say, how long do I do it and how fast do I do it and which direction do I go? And my answer is always yes. I don't care. Just don't cause pain when you do it. That's the only no-no. Right?
Yeah. So, what
And
about these people? Sorry.
don't screw up the order. That's the only time I'm going to have a problem with what you're doing. If you mess up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you do
Right. So,
three,
reviewing, right? So,
two,
reviewing
collarbone is
collarbones
always
to
number
the
one.
outside of the ears, behind the ears.
Yeah, right behind the angle of the jaw,
Uh
right
huh.
there.
Armpits.
Then 3 is armpit, pectoral. 4, the whole abdomen
Hmm.
from bottom of sternum to the navel. 5 is crease of the groin on both sides. 6 is behind the knee. After you do that, it takes you 60 seconds. I always say rub 10 times, tap 10 times. Then just rebound lightly on the balls of your feet like you're on a
Hmm.
mini trampoline because you have built-in trampolines called calf muscles.
Hmm.
And they're going to
Like a
pump
second
that.
heart.
Yes, they're going to put that venous flow back up. But now your veins and your lymph are going to go, this is awesome, guys. Dr. Perry cleared the pathway for me already. So then
Hmm.
it's really going to move. And then, of course, when you do that, try to keep your mouth closed, tongue at the roof of the mouth, breathe in and out through your nose so you can optimally use your diaphragm, drive nitric oxide from your nasal passages to dilate blood vessels so flow gets to places better.
Love it.
And then just do that. And then go whatever you want to do, yoga, run, whatever. Just do that first. Try to do it every single day of your life, and you'll be a hashtag beast mode monster. You'll like
I love
really,
that. It's so simple. It's just like such a logical way to do things. Now, you also I want to talk a little bit about the stop chasing pain philosophy
yeah, yeah.
because I know that you have an upcoming book, right? You've got the Stop
Mhm.
Chasing Pain book. Talk a
Yep.
little bit about the philosophy that you have of stop chasing pain.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So first of all, it says stop chasing it. It doesn't say stop treating it. But see, I deal in the world of chronic pain. People that have had issues, all types of pain, fibromyalgia pain, chronic fatigue pain, muscle pain, joint pain, you name it. And they've had something for months, if not years. And the standard approach of going after just do everything you can to the part that hurts has not worked for them. And what I tell people is that when it's become chronic, the direct attack on the painful tissue will no longer work. You have to look at the bigger systemic, which means full body, but also full systems, everything, not just your muscle and your ligament and your bone and your fascia, but your lymph and your blood flow and your organs, right? And then, of course, your mental state, emotional state, spiritual state. Because if you're beating yourself up and through here and you're in a hypervigilant fight or flight response, you're likely not going to hold on to all that body work well. You're just going to ricochet right back. So it's always a mixture of mind, body. They're not separate. They're one. So what I teach people to do is I say start where it hurts, and I usually start there because people expect me to. So I'm showing that I understand it and I hear you and I'm showing empathy. So I'm going to do some stuff here, but I'll kind of reframe it and go, you've been doing stuff to here for a year, but yet you're still here with me. So what that means is that Dr. Perry's job is to think completely differently and do things completely differently than you've had up to this point. Because they've usually tried a lot of things that are really wonderful things and help a lot of people and should help. But then why don't they help me? Because it's not a complicated issue. It's a complex issue. It's two different things. So that's when it's not about, let me just sledgehammer you with everything. You got to stop and think. So what I do
Yeah.
is I teach people to feel and then think. And it's very simple too, is that I look in places that other people have not looked because they don't know to look there, or they've just discounted it because they don't think it has anything to do with what's going on here.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have you heard somebody say, I've tried everything? And I'm like, well, clearly you haven't. Clearly,
Right.
you haven't tried everything, but maybe you're trying too many things. And I think sometimes that's what's happening. I asked somebody, they have chronic pain. Well, what are you, like, what are you trying? Well, I'm doing yoga. I'm doing cold plunging. I'm doing red light therapy. I live in a blue zone. I'm vegan. I don't eat dairy, soy, and gluten. I meditate for about 2 hours a day. I do physical therapy, occupational therapy. I'm like, okay, stop right there. Like,
I'm
okay.
exhausted. Whew.
Okay, like, I mean, so how many hours a day are you focusing on your pain? And they say all day long. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, no wonder you have pain. You've made such a relationship with it. What would you do with all of your free time if you weren't doing this? And they're like,
Right.
and so it's not working. So I think sometimes you're right. And I love that idea. When I had first met you, I don't even know how long ago it's been. I feel like it's been over 15 years more. And
Long time.
yeah, and the whole concept of stop chasing pain. And I thought, this dude's speaking my language, because that's what people do is they chase it. They spend so much time and so much money on it. And most often an indirect before a direct approach works better than going direct. And I'm with you. If somebody comes in with shoulder pain, most of the time, the last thing I'm looking at is their shoulder. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
what's causing the pain in their shoulder? And if it's an actual, like they've torn a rotator cuff, it's like, okay, but why did the tension get so great that you tore it in the first place? And so if you
Yeah.
don't go one step back, you're just with everybody else in the bucket of I'm just going to focus on a symptom. And that's the medical industry today, is that they're focused so much on symptoms and they are not really looking at the homogeny of the body, that there's never one thing that's causing the problem. It's a system-wide problem. And again, the biggest systems in people's bodies that we don't know anything about, the most I think complicated and dynamic systems are your fascial system. It's the largest system in the body that is completely understudied. Your lymphatic system is freaking everywhere, and
Mhm.
it's complex. You even mentioned it: superficial lymph, right? Mid lymph, deep lymph, right? So we if we're not looking at these systems that are really pulling waste out of the body and transporting, some
Mhm.
transport nutrients, some eliminate waste. If we don't know anything about that, and people think diet and exercise is all that it takes to lead a healthy, active life. By the way, that was me when I was in my teenage years. I really bought into the idea if you ate right and you exercise, you were going to lead a pain-free life. I don't even know where I even came up with that idea, but it's a total sham. The fitness industry is totally lying to us in that idea. And because there is just so much more to learn, and the human body is complicated, it's a complex, dynamic organism. And I think the beauty of a lot of the stuff that you do is it takes a gentle approach. And I know that there are other people out there who tell women to scratch at their fascia to create good
Mhm.
bruising. And I'm like, you're rupturing capillaries. Is that really the most efficient way to change what you see in a mirror and how you feel in your body? I just beg to differ. I don't think we should cause pain to get out of pain as a first route of resolution. Do you?
Absolutely not at this stage, and I got that through my own experiences and just learning to study more neurology and pain science, and of course the behavior of fascia itself. But when you put somebody in pain, you automatically send them into more of a withdrawal fight or flight response because their innate sense is to pull away. And when you do that, you actually increase tension.
Hmm.
And when you increase tension in the body, you decrease fluid flow. Well, that
Simple.
just makes a whole heap of common sense because I'm clamping down on my pipes.
Yeah.
And one of the things that causes chronic pain is somebody stuck in hypervigilant sympathetic dominance. And if you add to that the sympathetic nervous system, what it's going to do is here's the cool part, but it's really important to know is the sympathetic nervous system also constricts fluid channels.
That's right.
So I'm actually going to shut you down more when I hurt you. And when you put the body into that fight or flight response, learning for the nervous system stops. It's not
Well
going to let
said.
you change. It's not going to let you change a new behavior because it's got to worry
Hell
about not
no.
dying.
That's right.
You can't. And I tell people, think about it logically. If you wanted to establish a relationship with someone in your life that you may be disconnected from, and you want to get back together, how well is it going to work for you if you jump in their face and you start screaming at them and you
Yeah,
want to
not so
force
well.
them to change?
Yeah.
That's not going to work out well for you. So it's the same thing with the body, and you just learn that in time because I was I'm gonna push as hard as I can. The harder I make you scream and writhe on my table, the more I'm gonna change things. I'm gonna push to the center of the earth to reach your psoas against your spine. And these are the people that would feel good for a day, and it kept coming back.
Yeah.
So in my world, I know I can't do that because it's not gonna work. So this is again the tie between the lymphatics and vascular flow to your nervous system. And whenever you touch fascia, you're always influencing the nervous system.
Yeah.
And yes, you can push on something so hard that you inhibit it and you shut it down because you can massively impact those lymph valves that can open up and you get backflow.
Yeah. Yeah, there it is. There it is. I mean, I hope that everybody is catching this idea because I mean, you're just making so much sense. And I think these are the kind of concepts where hopefully those guys of you are listening are really waking up to, yeah, I think maybe I want to learn a little bit about this. When is your book coming out, by the way?
It won't be till next year, so
I'm excited. I'm excited
it's
to
a
read it.
big it's a big project, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Writing
coming.
writing books takes at least 1 year of your life,
Oh my
and
gosh.
and
Yeah, yeah,
and you
yeah.
do
It's
get
like
gray hair from doing it.
for
Okay, so
sure.
I've got two more questions for you, because I want to be mindful of your time. So, if you could dispel one myth about chronic pain or inflammation, what would it be? Not
That
that we don't
that
already know, but tell me.
well, one is that inflammation is bad. Inflammation is not bad, like stress is not bad. You need inflammation because actually if you didn't have it, you'd be dead way quicker.
That's it.
So, and you also have to look at inflammation as a protective response because that's all it is. You just don't want inflammation run amok. And then here's my joke is that if you're stuck full of muck, which is waste, inflammation is going to do that very thing. So
Yeah.
it'll clear your lymphatics out. Okay.
That's yeah.
And
So
and then also chronic pain is something that it's easy to look at it as a punishment and that everything is miserable and you resent your body and you neglect your body and you feel like you're in the abyss and you're in the quicksand. But the pain is just always trying to protect you, but it's just asking you to change something. Like, and here's the thing that you don't need to get stressed about because it's just people say change what? And I'm like, well, a good step is change doing your lymph, do your big six, maybe do your fascia work, do some good breathing, get some great relationships, take a walk every now and then, watch the morning sun come up, do the basics, right?
yeah.
Just do the basics, just be consistent with it. But you can also do this by just changing what pain means for you. So is pain as instead of your chronic pain being a punishment, say, I know it's trying to protect me. It's just really, really good at it. And then look for ways to change something. And then if you can just reframe that meaning, because when you change the meaning of something, you change your physiology completely.
Yeah, I always say change your mind about your body's state. That's really the first way out of pain. If you want to get out of pain, you have to go in your body to get out of pain. The more we try to tune it out with pain relievers or seeking outside of ourselves a solution, I think we get further away from truly understanding the why of pain, and then creating resolution. I think that's great. Now, I think probably you've sort of already mentioned or like answered this, but I always ask everybody on Anatomical Gangster the same question at the end. So let's just see
Oh
if this is
boy.
any. You probably have already kind of answered it. I mean, I feel like you have.
Hmm.
You've said so much great stuff, and it's so much wisdom in this podcast so far. But if you could tell somebody something that you've learned in your life that completely changed your life, and if they
Mhm.
knew it, it might very well change the very course of their life as well, like maybe even how they experience the human experience at all and their belief in what the human experience is about, what would it be?
Hmm. That's a good one. Well, one, I'm going to tell you straight off the gate is doing the big six. That's going to transform your life. It's going to blow your mind up. That one, right? But then the other one was for me when I cycle back to that meaning. I realized when I was really, really sick how my physiology of my body responded to how I chose to react to something that was occurring in my life. And I remember the moment where I was on social media and you get trolled every now and then when you want to try to put some good out into the world. It just happens. And I let it get to me and I started to get fired up. And then I noticed, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm noticing my symptoms flaring up here. Like
Hmm.
my eyes would start to water, my skin was getting hot. I started to get a headache, like the time when I was in the quicksand. I said, "It's not good. What's going on?" And then I had to make a choice in that moment. I just flipped the switch and I just moved on. And instead of responding and feeding that, because it would have gone on all day, tit for tat, I let it go. And because I was so sick for so long, I had better body awareness that within a split second, I noticed, wow, my eyes feel better already. I don't feel as hot. I'm relaxing. And I thought to myself, Perry, and everybody listening, you just discovered your superpower. And that's the changing the meaning of something. And it's not just for something that's happening. And I'll end with this is one of my dear friends, Bo Lotto, who's a neuroscientist, said, you can't change what happened, but you can always change the meaning of what happened.
Hmm.
And that's what you're going to have to do.
That gives me goosebumps. That's so wise, and I think that's a big message for everybody. And what I hear on that is, don't feed negativity. Don't feed the negative mindset when you think I can't do it, or they did that to me, or how dare they that. Actually, you're just giving somebody else your power. And so when we maintain our power, we maintain our resilience. And really, that to me is a superpower as I've gotten older, is to really not give a shit what other people say, and to
Yeah.
just live in my truth, and live as a good person
High
and try
five.
to do good in the world, right? Sure.
Yeah.
All
Mel
right.
Robbins, high five. Yeah.
I love it. I love her too. She's awesome. Well, Perry, I mean, it's been way too long since we've had a conversation, and like all of our conversations, it's just always such an honor and a pleasure to chat with you and to be reminded of all of these great things. I hope everybody listening is going to go check out Perry's website. And again, he's all over YouTube. You can see so many of his great videos on Instagram, on social media. So make sure that you follow him and learn more about what he's doing. I think it's stopchasingpain.com. Am I right to say that? Yeah. So,
You got it.
make that's it. So, make sure that you check him out. And again, if you enjoyed this conversation and this podcast, please subscribe below, share it with your friends. And as always, stay curious, stay open minded, and just be the change in the world that you want to see. So, I'll see you soon. Well, I hope that you enjoyed that conversation with Perry. I for sure did. And I'm going to be doing that big six every day. It was a great reminder to go through that quick 1 minute treatment. So simple to do. I hope you guys check him out on YouTube so that you learn how to care for your lymphatic system. And as always, thank you so much for being part of Anatomical Gangster. Subscribe and leave some messages and comments for me. And I look forward to seeing you on the next podcast. See you soon.